Welcome to the Know Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Vipul Pasania, and today's guest is Jason Shurgot. He is an aspiring business owner, world traveler, and founder of the motivation and inspirational page on Instagram and Facebook called Millionaire Notes. Jason, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Vipul. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have some fun times this Saturday morning.
Definitely, likewise. So, Jason, obviously, I sort of understood that you started your page a few years back, and I've been following your journey since the beginning, pretty much. But before we get into that, what I wanted to cover was on your personal page. I was scrolling through, and I saw that the first post you made is quite interesting because you gave a glimpse of your story, saying that I think it was about last year or the year before, maybe, where you were on track to getting a lot of success. At least that's what you thought. But then, things sort of took a turn for you to go in a different direction. So tell me a little bit about that and what actually happened there.
Sure. So the journey is never a straight path. I mean, anyone listening, make sure you understand that. And you can make plan after plan, but thing you need to plan for most is that things won't go to plan. And I was growing some businesses. I've been at it for, I'd say, 10 to 15 years. Definitely 10 years, like nose down, 15 years, like I want to do this. And through that, I've had many businesses, whether bakeries or helping people build plastic products that went national, or consulting firms, or my Earn Your Worth, which we'll talk about later. And in that period that Vipul's talking about, things were going well, but then there just a turn of direction, things fell apart. And sometimes you can't control when things fall apart, whether that's professionally, romantically, spiritually, etc. And you got to find a way to get yourself back on track. So there's no doubt, I'd say from about November 2016 to that post, which was February 2017, I was trying to bounce back. I was trying to get back on my knees first, then to my feet, then to a walk, then to a jog, then to a run. Now we're sprinting, that's for sure. So that just shows that you can go from the point of despair to the point of success. And so then I had to pivot back into a corporate consulting gig, not as an employee, but as a consultant, to rebank myself, to get new revenue. And in that period, I really revitalized Earn Your Worth. And then I knew, and I became certain that no matter what you pay me, I can't do this. I don't want to be in the office setting. I can be a consultant. I can help the firms, but it's not where I want to be. It's not allowing me to travel the world, as Vipul said. It's not allowing me to be my best version of myself, and it's not allowing me to be the person that I wrote about in my Full Cup Manifesto, which I hope Vip will be able to share with y'all. And so now, since that point, since I got out of that, that was about August 2017. Hit the ground running with Earn Your Worth, and then got linked up with the firm I'm with now as part founder. And then most recently, I just pitched to Shark Tank. So maybe we'll get into that as well.
Yeah.
And so as you can see, I mean, and it's good that he brought up that post, because I leave it there. And that account at Jason Shurgot is kind of quiet right now because I'm building some businesses, and I even say that. But it's good that he recognized that, yeah, look, I posted this to show the transparency and things like that. And but one more thing before I pause. One thing I'm really excited about, and I'm going to take a little bit of this audio before it is, I turned 34 on August 8th, 2017, and I decided I was going to make this daily vlog called Trip 34 Around the Sun. So I'm at day 226 today. I've done a video a day for that many days, and it's been really fun to see some of those periods. Like we talked about, the journey's never straight. And even in this year, there's points where I'm like, yeah, and then I'm like, no, yeah, no. But ultimately, just like the stock market, it's going up, 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 and up. It's just about the commitment and consistency. So back to you.
That's it. No, exactly. You're right. It is about the commitment and consistency. And there's so many things that can happen that are out of our control, as long as we know where we're sort of the direction that we're going in. But you mentioned one thing that I want to get into is a manifesto. So we haven't really talked about that on air or off air, but I'd like to get into that because it sounds like you wrote about almost what you wanted to do in life, or a vision for your own self-clarity. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So the Full Cup Manifesto is right here. And it's something I came up with. I was just thinking about, where do I want to go? How can I get crystal clear on what I want to do with my life, and how do I want to experience it, and how do I want to have others experience me? So I really started thinking about all the quotes I've been posting for year after year on Millionaire Notes, the books I've read, the thought leadership from really, really game changers, and then myself, like, who is Jason, and who do I want to stand for? So I came together with these words, and then a good friend that I met through Instagram did the design for me. And it's just how I live my life. And it's right there on the screen. But it's basically everything that's on the manifesto reminds me to live my dream life. And then if something is out of accordance with the manifesto, then I make sure I say no when I mean no, as opposed to saying yes. And it's some basic tenets of life. Just make sure you're growing daily. Make sure you're distancing yourself from negativity, starting with a place of gratitude, marching to the beat of your own drum, and loving every moment of your life, just to name a few.
Yeah, I love it. No, so it seems like you've got a lot of things to live by there that will give you daily reminders in terms of when you're making certain decisions,
Hmm.
that that you make the right decision based on what your true values are. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people are so 100 miles an hour, full speed ahead, but they don't take time to think what direction they're going. Where is that path going to take you? What's the end destination? Just because you started on that path doesn't mean you can't change. And so I just want to peel back the layers a little bit. It seems like, as you said, things are falling into place for you right now. Everything is syncing really well. Take us back sort of about 10 years ago, because you've been doing business for about 10 years. What it was like for you at the start, and sort of the businesses you started out with then. Are you still running the same sort of businesses, or have they changed since then?
Sure, they've definitely changed. And I think the biggest shift was about 5 or 6 years ago. I got hooked up with my mentor, Arnie. And the first 2 or 3 years with Arnie, I wasn't really, I wasn't really listening. I was hearing, but I wasn't listening or executing. And then I'd say the last, 24 months, I've really been executing. And then the last 6 months, it's like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Here's the steps I want to take. Does this make sense? And he always makes sure I make my own decision. So before I go into what Vipul asked, I'll throw that out there. If you can get a mentor, no matter what it is, find yourself a mentor. And that mentor can be the same age as you. They can be younger than you. They can be much older than you. It's not about their age. It's about, are they the right fit for you? And can they help you become more and more clear on your journey and avoid pitfalls on the entrepreneur journey? So about 15 years ago, yeah, I was 22 when I started my first business, and that was a bakery. My grandma is a baker, and she's been doing it for over like 40 years now. But I took her recipes with a college friend, and we rebranded, and we started getting her into shops. Problem there was, young kids. We didn't have capital, and we were growing, but we needed more hands-on or money to grow the business. And without collateral, we had to close that down. So I left that with making sure my grandma will never go away, because I can make her treats, and people love them. I mean, she still sells them crazy for Easter right now, so many orders. And then from there, I had to go into my first corporate professional job, learn some of the skills that have really paved the way for where I am today, which is the project management, leadership, human dynamics, human psychology, Lean Six Sigma. Did that for about 4.5 years, pivoted out of that, got into consulting. And that's where I learned a lot of the skills that I'm using now in my business that I mentioned that me and some guys are going through since I left MetLife in August. And some other businesses along the way. I wanted to make a mobile application. So like Draw Something was out. This was like 2012, 2013, and it was huge. I was like, well, I want to do that. Never coded, never anything. So I just started Googling, finding out how to do the process, use my project management experience, and then we made the app. And it got to the top 50 on the App Store, but we couldn't IP it, we couldn't protect it, so copycats came in, and eventually that had to go away. At this point, I'm turning 30. About 4 years ago, I had that, what do I do? What am I doing? How am I going to recover? But you don't see the seeds of success that you're getting with all of these things. And that's one thing I always tell people now is you have to find the lesson, and you're going to have those pits of despair. Like, what am I doing? Should I give up? This isn't me. I can do this. I can't do this. Your self-talk, right? Make sure it's positive. But it's all about finding the seeds of success in everything you do. So my seeds of success and things we've been talking about from the mobile app was, now I can make mobile apps. To date, I've been a part of over 50 mobile applications. And what I just pitched to Shark Tank is, guess what? A mobile app. So that's paved the career. And then I helped a buddy with his marketing and messaging for a squeezable Jello shot cup. He's now in all 850 Party City stores. So super pumped for him. Going to see him on Monday. Then I helped a friend build his consulting firm, and guess where he slotted me into as one of his number 3 employee. A healthcare firm needed somebody to help them make a mobile app. So as you're seeing here, the trend is you're never actually failing. You're just learning the skills. And if you go towards it with that abundance mindset, that growth mindset and positivity, and hey, I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to learn something that's going to help me succeed later. You're always going to go forward. So now in my current role, they brought me on their leadership team. They were already in business for about 18 months, but they saw some of the skills, really just the way I interacted with people, the way I was trying to help someone in Charleston, South Carolina, salvage their family building of 100 years. Another project I'm working on, real estate, and just the way I carry myself. And I didn't carry myself this way, as Vipul was mentioning on that first post of Instagram. But how can you when you're so depleted, feeling broken? So like, I can't do it. But I want you to hear how I'm talking now, because there's a big transition. And the last thing I'll say in the journey is, so now the role I'm in is I literally am the closer. We talk to a client, we figure out what they need. I come in, I look at their end-to-end problem, I break down a solution, we get the thumbs up, and then when it's time to build the scope of work, the proposal, I do that, and then we then break it down to chunks where people do the roles I used to do, and then I can oversee them because of everything I've talked about on my journey. So a lot of my day-to-day now is really just getting out, meeting people, talking, and traveling. So now that goes back to the last thing. 3 years ago, I made that account when I went to Europe, and then there was one thing that was broke, which was, well, you saved up this money, you can travel, and you're doing these things like millionaire notes and other things, but where's that consistent income that you can do on a virtual basis? So now, since I've done this last effort, I have that, and I think I've been in 10 states in like 15 days, and then I have like 4 coming up in the next 8 days.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. I think everyone would definitely enjoy traveling the same way that you do, because there's so much to see out there. But in terms of the last bit that you mentioned, I think taking it back about 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
on the point of virtual income. So is it from different streams of income in terms of the businesses that you look after, or did you set up a specific business just to have sort of virtual income from that?
Sure. So a number of things happened. The one revenue stream is millionaire notes. We do get paid to do some shout advertisements, not as much as you used to when like 2014, 2015. And actually millionaire notes, I turned over the keys to the castle to my friend Gene. I never met him, but I met him on Instagram. He's out of Oregon, and I want to share that because people are like, wait a minute, you built this 200K account and you just like turned over the password and you never met the person? That's nuts. But you can sense good people in the world and trust. And then we had been talking phone and messaging for about a year prior to that. And I'm telling you, he's doing some great things with what he's posting. I still post too, but he's there. So we get some money there. We do a 50% revenue split. Then I got into investing. Really, I started taking some of those bigger chunks of money that I got from corporate and got into stocks. So then I get some virtual income from there. So it's a multiple income streams. Then I get the income from the business I was just talking about, the consulting firm, and then I get some money for mentoring other people when they're doing their business. And then I have an online course, Earn Your Worth, which helps people catapult their own careers based on what I learned throughout my life. And then I get, like, every time I sell one of those on a webinar or through a reference, get some money there. So there's a number of income streams, and I'm always looking to create more. But now when I look at income streams, I look to see, is it integrated with my skill set? Can I build something that I can then also subcontract to some other businesses so I keep it in-house and then take care of the IRS? And then most importantly, does it go back to the full cup manifesto? Because if it makes money, but it goes against that, it's not really doing. Because when you are in the state of like positivity, growth mindset, and just happiness, everything else starts flowing. And I think that's the difference. When you really start living your purpose, and you have to find out what that is, and it's tough. I mean, that was a very tough part for me. Then everything else becomes simpler because you're not working anymore. You're doing the things you would do in your spare time. And people always said that. So for me, I had to find out that was really interacting with people, helping organize stuff, fixing process, and doing graphic design. So that's, I put all of my favorite things into my current job, and then I get to travel. So if there's someone who wants to pay me a lot of money, but then they tell me, Jason, you have to come sit here for a year straight, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, definitely. So it seems like you've got your priorities right, and I guess every decision is easier once you're aware of that. And it's funny you say about the, about turning down offers that would stop you from traveling, etc., and don't line up with your manifesto. Because I was listening to a podcast where Seth Godin was interviewed, and he turned down a job for $1 $1 billion in stock options. And anyone that's listening would probably think that's crazy. But, he said to himself, he asked him that the $1 million question for him was, is this going to change the world, or is this going to impact me, or change, what I'm doing currently? And if it's not, why am I heading in the same direction? If I'm going to make a decision to change my career or change the entrepreneurial journey I'm on, I want it to be in a different, have a different impact and go in a different direction almost. Why continue doing the same thing over and over? And it's seems like, you've got the similar mindset. So, the other thing I wanted to ask you was obviously Shark Tank. You posted that a few was it a few days ago, a few months ago, I think.
Just a few days ago, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting because obviously I watched the show, and so do thousands and millions of other people listening. But what was the whole process like? Being the person that actually goes through the process of leading up to the pitch and then auditioning and then finally pitching.
Yeah, so I really like what you shared about Seth, by the way. I'd like to see that or link me to that. I'd like to check that out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Shark Tank. So first off, this was only the open call auditions. It may or may not go anywhere. And the process is, I started the business that I pitched 9 weeks ago. I had some downtime because everything I built in my life and this idea came to me. And then all the skills I've talked about, they all link together. So then it's called that like the first week of February, the idea comes to me. And then I say, Arnie, I got this idea. What should I do? He put it on paper. I said, okay. So then the end of February, I said, Arnie, there's this pitch competition. Should I submit? He said, it's not going to hurt. So I submitted. So then I was one of 7 finalists to come to Pittsburgh to pitch for the competition. Went really well. So they're still talking with me on some things after that. And then about 3 days later, a friend said, hey, Jason, Shark Tank's going to be in Pittsburgh on the end of March. You should pitch. I said, sure, I'll be there. So then I, refined the deck a little bit, refined my pitch. The best thing I do is here, I'll say this, guy, to everyone listening. In the past, when I was a younger entrepreneur, I would hold everything so close to my chest. They're going to steal it. I can't share it. But you need the opinions of others and everyone, from like an investor to a user to a potential customer if you're selling a product. Now I get that feedback and it's all positive. The second thing I want to share as we're going to talk about the Shark Tank, leading up to Shark Tank, is don't take anything as negative, right? And you're going to have haters that are always going to have the thumbs down and stuff like that. But that's just because you're doing what they can't or won't try to do themselves. It's not that they can't. They just maybe don't want to push themselves. But a lot of others are going to give you that constructive feedback and give you another viewpoint that maybe you can't see because you're too close to it. So from basically, 3:1 till 3:28, I was taking that feedback in and tweaking, trimming. And I'll get you a link to the pitch, Vipul, so if you want to see that. So then it comes the day. I get up and I get there around 7 a.m., get in line around 8 a.m., and meet a couple of great entrepreneurs in front of me, behind me. And then they give you a wristband. So you get there and you wait for about 2 hours. Luckily, I got there at 8. If I would got there at 8:30, I'd probably been in the evening session. So if you are going to do it, go early. If they say the line opens at 8, it probably opens at 6:30. People are going to be there, because when I walked in at 7:55, there was 100 people in front of me already. So keep that in mind. And then you're just going to fill out an application. I didn't even fill out an application. I just showed up. I heard a radio ad and my friend told me. So luckily somebody had an extra one. I filled that out. And then you just waited in line. Eventually they come around with wristbands and say, yep, here's your color wristband. Then they'll come around a second time and say, okay, here's the time to be back. So then I got to leave for like 3 hours, came back about midday. And then you think you're going to pitch? No, you're going to wait a couple more hours. So then I think I arrived at, like I said, 7. I think I finally got the pitch around 2:15. And you're going to get anywhere between 60 to 180 seconds. They're going to ask you some questions, and then that's it. And then what they'll tell you is, in 3 weeks, you'll hear from us. And if you don't, no, you just assume you're not moving forward. If you do move forward, they did allude that or make reference to many other steps. A 30-page application. There is additional interviews. Then they may even fly you out to Los Angeles to do a face-to-face interview, or get you into the studio, or you may even pitch in front of the Sharks, but your show may never air, right? And they said that usually, this is season 10 now, about 40,000 people will apply, and they only get 90 to 100 on the show. So I hope that gives some insight into what anyone listening could hope to experience. But the last thing I'll say is, be real casual. I mean, this first one isn't the shark. So it's just you really knowing your business, being confident in what you're speaking about, and having fun with it. Like I joked to the guys in front of me because they're like, I was like, well, how long is our pitch? And they're like, you don't know, it's a minute. I'm like, okay, maybe I should start working on my pitch. And the way I do things, it's just more of, I want to connect. So I don't want to sound too rehearsed. So I gave I built my pitch while sitting waiting, and it went well. So I mean, I'm hoping to get a phone call, but if I don't, I'm still going to move my idea forward. And that's the last thing I want to say on that is, don't let someone else's misunderstanding of your business, your product, yourself deter you from continuing your journey.
Yeah, that's a powerful message to end with on that story. And I think it's interesting because even if you don't get it, it's an experience most people won't have, so that's something that you've added to your playbook almost, that you can share when you're looking back at your life. I went to Shark Tank, I did the audition. So yeah, either way, it's a win, right? So it just depends on how you look at it. So when are you expecting to hear back from them? Is it going to be over the next week or two, or?
So I have a really fun trip coming up to Asheville, North Carolina, of 3 high school friends, and that's April 20th. That's a Friday. So we're either going to be having some beer in sorrow or celebrating in happiness, because I'll hear right around that time period.
Okay.
or
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, congratulations for coming this far, and yeah, I hope that you do. I hope that you do hear the positive news. It'll be good to see what turns out in a few weeks from now. But in terms of earn your worth, I think, is that what it's called? I think
Earn Your Worth. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that a little while ago, and we haven't really spoken about that. So I want to dig a bit deeper into that and why you actually started that.
So Earn Your Worth is an online career course that helps people, double their salaries. Some of my students have doubled their salaries, or just become more clear on a professional level, because everything is about clarity. If you're getting a theme here, it's consistency, it's clarity, it's owning your journey. So if you want to get to the career of your dreams, you first have to know, well, what is the career of my dreams? And then once you get there, it's a matter of, I'm really good at my job or my skill set, but I'm not really, how do I advance my job? So a couple years, like in 2013, I felt stuck in my professional career. This was right after the app had went down. So as you're seeing, everything, these seeds of success are planted, and then they create these businesses for me in the future if I'm close enough to them. So like when I made the app, I think I was making around 60 grand. So I was no problem to quit that job. And I've quit many jobs to chase my path, which my parents sometimes have been like, you're crazy. But you're not crazy, because if you know what you want to do in the direction of your life, you're going to be okay. So that's the backstory on your worth, because that's how the course came about. After the app was done in 2013, I had to go get another big boy job. So I said, okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my PMP, which is professional management certification. It's an accreditation that once you have that, you can just like go up a little bit in salary. So then I'm starting applying, and I'm like, I'm not getting people to respond. And I'm like, wait, I'm a great fit for this job. Why am I not getting the interview? So then I started doing the research online, and I found out about the ATS, which I call Robbie the Robot, which is the automatic tracking system. And if your resume isn't ready for him, you're gonna swipe. He swipes left, like Tinder. He just swipes left on you. So anyway, I'll keep this part short. I got all the nuggets together, and then I started applying them myself. And then shortly thereafter, I started getting the calls, the interviews. I started landing a job. I got to 80 grand. And then within 9 weeks, somebody called me, and they poached me, and I was making 105 grand. And then within a week and a half into that one, somebody was trying to poach me again. I was like, I just got here. So then about 2.5 months later, I said, you know what, I'll go over. And it was to Thermo Fisher to make, guess what, guys? Mobile applications. And then I was making like 125 grand. So then I was with them for 15 months, and my bulldog passed away. I sold my house, and I was like, are we going to go full time or what, guys? And then there was a change in leadership, so it didn't happen. So I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to Europe. And I went to Europe for 3 years, not 3 years, 3 months, which sprung up backpack to work. So you see, I'm hoping you're hearing this about my story. Everything's leading to itself. And so from all that came the course Earn Your Worth. And when I got back from Europe, I was like, well, Lewis Howes was doing big things. Other people were doing big things. My network, like Matt and John, we were thinking about how can we take this, online so I can do more travel. And I started creating Earn Your Worth. So then I really learned the webinar model, and it's just a course that I get on. I talk to people, and then I give them the opportunity to grow with me. And then if they do purchase, they have me as their mentor. I don't really care about the cost. I mean, they just have to buy, so I know they're serious. Because if they don't buy, then I can't give them my time. But if someone really wants to change their life, I'm there to help them. And once they pay the initial fee, if they need to call me, email me, that's not a problem. I don't care if you need hours with me. It's more about, let's get you to where you are. Because some of the things that have happened through that is some of my past students have taken on leadership roles, and then they call me for consulting, or they say, I need you to help me train my other people, or they say, Jason, I just can't wait till I can return the favor for you, which is what someone said earlier this week when I was meeting them for coffee. They just had a layoff, and now I'm connected with my network. And then very recently, as of last night, I needed some big boy luggage bags, and there's a department store closing, so I got some. And as I'm checking out, the person helped me. He says, well, I have to start interviewing now, and I haven't done that in a while. I was like, oh, give me your name. I'm going to give you my course. So you can contact me. So it's just all those things that are awesome. And what Earn Your Worth does for me is it allows me to, whether I make them pay through the process of buying it, or I just want to help someone out, I no longer have to have people pick my brain, because I took my brain and put it on paper for them in a very organized manner to answer a lot of their questions.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I guess it almost allows you to fulfill your own need of being fulfilled and helping others through that course as well, and then travel, because it's something that you can just do like we're doing now, right? Just talking to some of your students who I'm sure are probably halfway across the world from you. So, I mean, what would you say are probably some of the things that your students have taken away, like success stories that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is a lot of people are afraid to ask for what they want. That's one of the issues. It's like, how do you get the bigger salary? And it's just, I tell them and I teach them, it's about knowing your real market value, and then also knowing when it's okay to ask for additional money if you are going to work a third shift, or if you are going to be traveling a lot more, or if you're going to be using your car, get a car stipend, or get a cell phone stipend. If you are going to be traveling, make sure they're taking care of your gym, because all those little things, if they're coming out of pocket, really take away. And if you're willing to do that for the company, others aren't. So that makes you more of a smaller subsect of candidates that will do that. So you should be, compensated for that. Then I tell them it's really about making sure your resume is written in the right way. Most people forget to show accomplishments on their resume. It's just the bullet points of, here's what I did. Yeah, that's boring. So you wrote down requirements for software. Well, what did that lead to? Were you able to shrink the timeline for building the software? Were you able to be able to get the requirements done in a third of the time? Okay, so you were a sales manager. Great. You only have 2 years experience, no problem. I know they're asking for 5, but if you were a sales manager of 2 years experience that grew a footprint by 200% with half the staff after the person that was before you was fired because they took it down, well, that's a story you want to tell. And I also tell them, this is the big thing, and we're doing it here on this podcast interview, is be conversational. Let them know your story. The people across the table from you are looking for you, and they want to know what it's going to be like to work with you. They don't want the canned speeches. They don't want anything. They want to know, do you know your stuff? Are you good to work with? And if I bring you in, are you going to be able to solve my immediate problems? What else can you do? And then once you do that, are you going to stay the same? Or are you really always going to be that lifelong learner looking to mentor, help younger employees? And I think what real quality managers want is someone that has the guts to tell them when they're wrong. It's too many people will just be a yes person. So these are some of the things I instill into my students. And then as a hiring manager myself, these are things I definitely look for, because the people that do what I just said act and live differently. And I think they achieve whatever their version of success is more oftentimes than the others.
Yeah, it definitely seems like through all the qualities you mentioned there, I think it's always those people who are willing to push the boundaries a little bit more, and just to see what else is possible, and then just to take that extra step forward and go over and above on their own time to figure out what else needs to be done, or how else can I do this. I think it's those people who are curious. Ultimately, that's what I've figured out it comes down to, because the people that change history or change the status quo are the people who always ask, what if or why. those basic questions can change everything. Why is this the way it is? Why can't we do this? What if we change this? And
Yes.
then that takes you down a completely different path. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, what interests you right now? What's going on in your mind?
Uh, how how can I best take care of my employees? And that now that I'm in this position of a company, because some companies I started in the past were, the app company that was less than 5 people, other than my dev team, which we hired. When I was in corporations and in roles, I was a leader, but not a true leader because mommy and daddy corporation were taking care of their paychecks. Now it's and being in a position in the past of being on a team that the sales team sold stuff, and now I'm in a position to sell myself. They would sell us on, or they would agree to things that were unrealistic. So now I'm always protecting my employees. Hey, if somebody does something really good, do I really let them know how appreciative we are? I called someone yesterday because they knocked something out of the park, and I wasn't going to give them a Slack message. I was going to say, "Hey, I'm just calling because like you nailed this, man. It's really good. Just a few things we'll work on, but enjoy your weekend. Like it's fabulous." Building a relationship with the people, understanding from a leadership viewpoint, what is, we'll just use some names. What's John? What's really going on with John? What's going on with Sarah? And really connecting with them, because that's what keeps me up. I want them to be happy and fulfilled as well. And now it's my job and my other leadership side's job to make sure we're building a culture that not only we want to be in, that's attractive to them as well, and that we are always putting them first. I mean, sales and growth is one thing, but your people make the company. And when your people are loving it, then your customers are going to love what the people produce. And then the sales and business is going to take care of itself. So that's my big thing now as I transition to, that's my next growth thing, is really becoming this leader and salesperson that protects everyone on our team and helps us scale. So, and other than that is just seeing where this crazy gift app idea is going to go and just getting in front of more people. I have another pitch competition I'm going to pitch to, or submit to pitch to. I'll get that in by Monday, and then that's it. So really it's just understanding how to better lead and continually get feedback and read things that you're talking about. Just keep taking on thought leadership. I mean, I love driving and listening to Audible. So just always growing. I don't think I'll ever stop growing. So I think that's what interests me.
I think that's the most important part, isn't it? It's never stop growing. It's just that feeling that you have inside you. I think that, do you think it comes naturally? I think that you can't be taught that, can you? I don't think you can.
No, and it's like one of those things where people, I say this and I say it in the Earn Your Worth sometimes, is people go, "That's not my job." And I'm like, well, nothing's really your job. I mean, if they ask me to sweep the floor, I'm going to sweep the floor. If you, and I think what I was struggling with in the normal structure of Vipple is I don't need to work 9 to 5. And I recently had to turn down a gig. Part of my course is always staying in touch. It's exit like an expert, and that's module 5. And that's making sure you leave the company in a great place. You want your bosses to have a better opinion of you when you walk out the door than when you got in there and were killing it for them. So part of that is I stay in touch with my bosses. Had lunch with a previous one earlier this week, and then another one a couple weeks back. I was trying to get in to help them. They were understaffed. I want to do like a consultant effort for them back at Thermo, but 100% virtual, obviously. And he actually decided to leave the company. So he was on an interview, and he was talking to the guy, and within 15 minutes, he's like, you got to talk to Jason. You got to talk to Jason. So I didn't have to submit my resume. He, on his own interview, he got me an interview the next morning. I drove in and I talked to him, and he wanted to hire me, but I had to say no because it's not the old mindset. Our cultures hasn't shifted yet. That, yeah, we have all these tools to use, Jason, but I need you in the office. And I was like, I'm not opposed to office work, Bipple. It's just that, like, if I don't need to be there, I don't want to be there. So I think that's what it is everyone needs to, really come home to what they want, and you just have to stick by it. I know it's like a reoccurring theme I'm saying there, but I want that your listeners understand that, like, get clear on what you want and then don't settle. And you might not be able to do it yourself. So whether it's Vipple, whether it's a friend, whether it's a mentor, find out who that is and get some help with that. Because as I said throughout this podcast, I've been at it for 10, 15 years, and then I had a mentor for 6 years. But the real changes started happening when I did the internal work. And then I really started networking with, listening, and taking the advice of people smarter that have been down the path before me.
Yeah, I think that's important. The vision that you mentioned in terms of having clarity, because it's something I struggled with, very recently, and it was only until I got very clear on that, and this was, taking hours and days of quiet time to just sit and reflect and think about where is it that I actually want to go? Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Sort of asking the bigger questions that you're always scared to face, head on. And we're so busy with doing activities that we don't take time to actually reflect, because we know that those questions are there. They're at the back of our mind, but we
Yeah.
just like, no, it's too difficult to think about that. Let me just go to the cinema. Let me just go to work. Let me just work those extra few hours, and then we just become mindless. And then you wake up and you're 50 and you think, hey, how did I get here? And that's the problem, take the time to ask those questions, and then you can take control of your life, which is exactly what you've done. And me and Matt were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
And when he started HDF, he was consulting up to that point, but then HDF was what he wanted to do, to make it seem like his life was a lot more fulfilling and purposefully directed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's, there's no surprise he's got the results that he's got from it. So, no, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. So let me just wrap up with the final three questions that I ask
Okay.
everyone. With all the knowledge and experience you've gained over the last sort of 15 years of, doing what you've done, what would you tell the 18-year-old Jason if you were to tell him anything?
First, I would say put 100% of your high school graduation money into Amazon. No, then I would say get a mentor and know that everything's going to happen as it should, but don't beat yourself up if things don't go the way you expect. Just talk to someone, get through those periods of downness so you can get your back on your feet and try again. Always try again, uh, and never settle. That's what I would tell them.
Awesome. That's good. Good
Oh,
people.
yeah.
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 Go on. If there's anything.
And then the third thing is know who your real friends are and keep a smaller circle, and then also find people like you, Vipul, like Matt. We talked about my friend John and others, and surround yourself with them because they're headed in the direction you want to go.
Exactly. No, I think that's definitely key. Something that I found to be true as well is because the people that you surround yourself with. I know it's a cliche saying that goes on in personal development over and over again, but until you experience it yourself, you won't realize the difference it makes, because the level of thinking is just so far beyond you. You just think, oh wow, why didn't I think of this before? And you almost feel a level of discomfort when you're crossing that chasm of where you are and where they are. And that's ultimately what's going to make you grow, because your level of thinking just expands and expands. And then naturally, when that happens, you start asking those bigger questions, because then you know more. So then you'll do more. So it makes sense. So the second question, if you could write anything in a time capsule now for 3 generations later to read, so your children's children, if there's anything you could tell them, short message or a long message, what would you tell them?
Family first. Trust yourself. Have spirituality in your life, and leave everyone that you meet better than when you found them, and be grateful for any day above ground.
Powerful. That's good. That's good. That's a good message. So finally, to wrap up, I mean, Jason is now 90 years old. You're looking back at your life, reflecting on everything that's happened. What's the legacy and the message you want to leave behind for the world?
Well, for me, I'm just trying to get to a place of philanthropy now that things are starting to click. My goal has never been material items or anything like that. It's just how can I get in a position to help more people? And I alluded to that with how I'm trying to help the employees. Um, I just want to be known for someone that made the world a better place and that I got to experience as much as possible. So my legacy is just a person that's a trusted advisor for friends, family, and any partners I work with or customers. And that letting people know that a fulfilled life doesn't require you to have many of the material status symbols that others might think you need. A fulfilled life is what you make it and what you want it to be. And if you wake up in the morning, go to sleep at night, and everything you did in between, you feel happy. You, my friends, are a success. That's hopefully my legacy.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that mission. I'm sure you'll reach there, because you're definitely on the path to making an impact with the people that you've got currently in your life. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Jason, and I look forward to the next time we speak.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.